If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, build the team.
I like hiring and bringing people on my team that are bosses. You have to cut out the bullshit. You have to cut out the people that don't
Saj
belong.
is like on his bully right now.
I mean, I'm being...
Go ahead, keep going.
You want me to be 100% honest.
Keep going.
I have a voice here.
Yes.
And that's the culture that's like super important because you never know.
Yeah, venture hustles, life is really what you make it. Building up your brand is whatever you create it. Really ain't no limit. You just gotta love it. Working day and night, it's all about the venture hustle. Hey, venture hustles. Time to take it to the next level. Let's go.
All right, welcome back to the Venture Hustles podcast. This is Saj.
My name is Jack.
Well, welcome to the show. If you're listening to us for the first time or you've listened to some of our episodes in the past, we talk about startups, tech, entrepreneurship, businesses, the hustles, behind starting a company.
Yep.
Or your
Tips and
idea.
tricks.
Tips and tricks. And today we're talking about team building. And
Super important, I would say.
100%, I agree. And the importance of team building.
Yes.
Why is it important to get a good team? Surround yourself with good people, and how to attract the right people.
Yes.
And how to keep the right people on your team, and building a proper culture. That fits your needs and also represents you and your brand efficiently.
Yeah.
So you can scale and grow long term.
Yeah, I mean, as the saying goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, build the team.
Love that. Who says it?
No idea.
All right. Well,
I say that now. I say that now.
no, you say that.
I'm just kidding.
Emil's just cracking up in the back.
But yeah, I mean, team building. Why is building a team so important?
100%. I mean, I think it's something that you realize as you, like, if you haven't thought about it already, like I feel like you realize this as you go through your trials and tribulations of why it's so important. At least that was for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, why would you say it's important?
I would say it's important because, like, whether you're a founder or someone that's thinking about like starting something, like you have to understand like your strengths and weaknesses, and you also have to understand that you will not be good at everything, right? I mean, so if you're not good at finances, you want to find someone that is good at finances. If you're not good at managing people, you want to find someone that is good at managing people. If you're not good at sales, you want to find someone that is good at sales and can then teach people how to sell, right? So, and when you start to build a good team, that will start to bleed into, the organization and other things that you do. So, yeah,
I agree 100%. And I think that for me, what's really like attractive to me?
What's attractive?
So what's really attractive is when I'm talking to other startups and businesses, and they're always telling me about the team, and they're telling me who's behind this cool idea that they just tested and it was like super dope, right?
Okay.
And super, like, it worked.
Okay.
It's always attractive to me when they're not telling me that it was all them. It was all just like, hey, it was just me, and it was, we're doing so many things. And like, of course, we understand that's part of being a startup or a company or a business.
Yeah,
and wear a lot of hats. But there are a lot of people that don't get rid of the habit early on
of saying I
and saying we instead, but more so letting things go, trusting people more, and to stop thinking that I need to do everything. That mindset of like, it needs to be me.
Yeah.
It needs to be us. This is my baby. This is my everything. So it's always attractive to me when I like meet people that are like, you know what? Our artist, our designer is absolutely fucking phenomenal. And this was their idea. And we let them have their own creative run at it, and it worked, and I couldn't be more proud. I love it when people tell me that.
Yeah, I mean, and that based on what you said, like that also bleeds into like the culture of the organization too. You know, when people feel like they're part of something, when people feel like their opinion and their output actually matters, that their voice is heard, you know, like for sure. I agree with what you're saying.
One of my biggest like mindsets in recent years, as I've evolved and started learning about where I'm comfortable with in the landscape of business and entrepreneurship, is I like hiring and bringing people on my team that are bosses. Like I like people that have that boss mentality. I don't like bringing people on that constantly need hand-holding and constantly need to be told what to do. I like bosses that come in so they can make boss decisions. They can make executive decisions.
Initiatives.
They can make the hard calls when needed, right? They can be trusted with bigger decisions. They can be trusted with their opinions and their insights. And that's I'm very comfortable with that. And I think I'm becoming more and more open. Of course, with that comes a negative and a dark side. And
of course,
you know, we've personally experienced that in different waves and very, you know, so also like recently. But the reality is that's the part of life that you have to just bite the bullet on. You can't let that turn you off. You know what I mean?
You know, and that goes with anything. There's always, you know, going to be an upside, downside. And, you know, obviously it's just about managing that, evaluating the risk and being, okay, you know what? I can do that. If it doesn't turn out that well, you know, I'm still here. If let's say that bad outcome happens.
Yeah, I mean, also like the advantage of having these high level thinkers and these creatives and these innovators right on your team. If you get these people that have this mindset, they come in and of course they cannot be lazy. They cannot just be here for a paycheck. They cannot just be here just to kind of cruise on by. That's for me. That's like an automatic no. I don't hire them and don't bring them on, unless it's a position that is required to be like that.
Yeah.
Right? But for the most part, it sets you free, and it sets you like for me. It's almost like if you set everything right, it puts your overall vision into autopilot, and you get more ideas, more innovative input that maybe you weren't thinking about. Yeah. But because you've enabled and positioned your team in such a way, you are now able to explore so many different things that you weren't
previously able to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with that, you know, for sure. I mean, even if for someone that's just starting a job, you know, for me, it's like always want to make sure you're doing all you can. And at the end of the day, just like be an asset and learn as much as you can. Yeah. You know what I mean? But, I think with that, there's also another side where you can't expect everyone to be like that.
No, I agree with you.
And if someone isn't like that, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Right?
So when you say be like that, what do you mean?
Like everything you just mentioned, someone that wants to take like initiative is a boss, wants to make high level decisions. Not everyone's built that way.
I 1000% agree with you. And I don't know if you remember early on when he came on the team, I always said like, if you're a person that is like working at a super low level job, you're doing something like, I don't know, like a janitorial work or something part-time, or you're working at a fast food restaurant, whatever it is. Right. Yeah. And at the end of the day, you come home and you're happy doing that.
Yes.
And you don't care how much money you're making, but you know what? You can come home and say, you know what? I'm happy with life. I'm happy with my schedule. I'm happy with what I'm making. Who cares what anybody else says? Yes. That's all that matters at 100%. The end of the day. But I'm saying more for the hustle mindset, for startups, for businesses, entrepreneurs. You cannot operate on that mindset.
Yeah, especially for a startup, I would say for sure. You know, you need everyone to be thinking constantly, problem solvers.
You need creators, you need innovators, you need problem solvers. You need bosses. You need executives.
What do you think is the most
and leaders
desired characteristic of someone let's say someone that you want to bring on?
In what capacity?
I don't know. I wasn't really going that specific. It was kind of general.
And I don't have a general. For me, it's always like what capacity. Am I hiring a salesperson? Am I hiring a designer? Am I hiring a marketing manager? Like, what are we talking about?
I don't know. I don't know. Pick any one of those things. I was thinking like...
I think the one general thing that I always have, there's only one, is I always say, I've been saying this for almost a decade now, is curiosity.
Okay.
And I love saying that, and that's a question that interviewees are asking me, interview candidates are asking me. When they ask, what do you look for in a candidate? That's my go-to, is because how curious are you? How hard are you thinking? how hard are you pushing yourself out of the comfort
Out of the
zone?
box, yeah.
Will you go the extra mile? And as cheesy as that sounds, for me, that's very important.
I would agree with that.
Are you going to stop when the tape needs to be flipped? You know what I mean? What are you doing?
Or like when you hit a wall. Like for me, I think like problem solving like is one of the biggest absolute like skills that you can possess. Like being able to critically think through a problem and then being able to solve it. Because at the end of the day, like you're going to experience problems, whether they're small, whether they're big, and you might not necessarily have that answer right in front of you. It's like using, like sometimes people get confused with, just because you have resources doesn't really mean much. It's like being able to be resourcefulness, like using those resources to solve the problems. Again, at the end of the day, you want to be able to hire people and build a team that people are critically thinking and you gotta just stare.
I mean, I'm sorry. I was looking at like the crazy wind, but I agree with you 100%. Critical thing. You lost your train of thought there.
You got a blank stare.
I was completely locked into what you were saying, but it's also very ominous outside for people that are not looking. We have a big thunderstorm waving in, and my family's got a 5-hour drive upstate New York, so I'm a little worried. I told them to safe travels. I'm telling them to be a little careful. That's why Kat is thinking about canceling her trip to Virginia. She has a flight tonight and the flight got canceled, so that's at the back of my head right now, but I'm good.
But yeah, overall, like problem solvers, critical thinkers, go-getters, hustlers. But
you got tears in your eyes.
That was pretty funny. But I guess like without beating a dead horse, find someone that is hungry and that wants to grow, right, and wants to learn.
I think
overall.
So I agree with that as well. I think that's a pretty good one. I think mindset, right? And I don't know if this is in the agenda for us to cover, but like mindset is so important. If you're starting out, if you're an established business, you figured out your business model, you've gotten your proof of concept, or if you don't have any of that, but you need a team and you're assembling the first version of the Avengers, right? What do you do? And I think for me, that is so important that you gotta surround, as cheesy as it sounds, you gotta get the right people that are there for the right reasons. You gotta get people that are on the same wavelength as you. You gotta surround yourself with people that have the same goals as you, or at least similar, where you're not, when let's say you have to work 24 hours nonstop to get an important pitch ready.
Yeah.
And that guy says, you know what, man, I got party at Joe's tonight. It's my boy's birthday party. And if he's not, if he's not there when you tell him, fuck that.
Yeah.
Then he's not right for you.
Yeah.
Because he's not there for the right reason. He's not there to hustle. He's not there to grind. For me, that's so important, especially when you're starting out.
Yeah, I would say that definitely applies to a startup, you know, and like I think as you get bigger, like, you want to build that like core team that like you guys are all like that. But then you also have to understand that.
I mean, you went through that experience, right? You were like, I started some things with a couple of people in your earlier years, and it was so bad that they weren't in the right mindset, and that it fizzled out and died. Yeah, right?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Was that accurate? Or
I would say, yeah. I mean, I had a couple different like scenarios, but that was definitely one of them for sure. And like, it's okay. You just have to understand it, recognize it, learn from it, and then.
Well, the thing is, like, a lot of people learn from it by unfortunately spending a lot of time and money and resources into it, and they realize it's a little too late. And then some people that are not cut out for it. Yeah. You have to realize that in order for you to be able to build a successful business and a lifestyle around what you want your end goal to be, you have to cut out the bullshit. You have to cut out the people that don't belong.
Saj is like on his bully right now.
I mean, I'm being...
Go ahead, keep going.
You want me to be 100% honest.
Keep going.
You have to cut out the bullshit. You have to cut out the people that don't belong. You have to cut out the toxic mindset.
Yes.
That will bring you down. And one of those things that's like super important is like a lot of times people just want to tag along the journey for vanity's sake, for the sake of being able to say that they did it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true.
And it's not your job to be their babysitter. Just make sure you make it very clear. It's not your job to do their work for them.
Well, not even that. Like, again, this is also something when, why building a team is important is to establish like some ground rules for the team, like accountability. Like that is pretty much what you just said. If you say you're going to do something, then you should be doing that. And if you are not able to do it, you communicate that with your team.
You need to be able to carry your own weight. And if you're not going to carry your own weight,
yeah,
and you will have lighter responsibilities, or you're not capable of doing it, you need to be able to iron that out as the best that you possibly can. Yeah. Set your expectations, set your royalties, set your percentages accordingly, or your income and your salary and your output. But the reality is, don't bring anybody on that's not a right fit, or at least have shown identifiers and like signals of them not being the right fit, and you just didn't do anything about it because you didn't have any other options.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's a good point that you raised, because now that goes into the next thing that I know I wanted to kind of touch on, was like, how do you build like a good team? So what are some of your first steps? Like, I don't know.
Building a good team?
Yeah.
So a lot of the crazy rant that I just went on in the last couple of minutes was really solely from a hardcore startup hustler entrepreneur mindset.
Yeah,
we're in the life cycle of where we are right now, or in my business, we're significantly further along than just going through that day-to-day hustle. It's not, we're on the other side. We're servicing a lot of startups, but in terms of being an established brand, it's different. That answer to that question is very different.
Yeah,
because when you're first starting out, that's what I just said is very vital.
Yes.
Selecting your teammates.
Without a doubt.
Mindset, right?
Yeah.
But let's say you already have that. There'll be another wave of it. Let's say you're at the first point of when your business just pivoted, or you're offering better services, or you figured out what after you've gotten your proof of concept, you figured out the meat of your business, and now you know how to package and sell it. Now you know how to build a brand, and now you know how to scale it, right?
Okay.
Then at this point, you need a new wave of team members. You need a new wave of people that you never knew you needed to hire, but now you do, right?
Whether it's salespeople, accounting, HR, whatever it is.
100%, exactly right. And then let's say you go through that wave, you'll have another one. You'll always need to keep getting people. As long as you're growing and scaling, you'll always need new people that you'll have to hire. Now, for me, let's say after the POC stage, right? And you're at a point of the initial stages of like scaling, like, okay, now let's make this a business, right? Now let's think about this being a business.
Yes.
For me at this point, it really comes down to like, what can you offer, right? If you don't have much revenue or don't have much runway or no investment, you can't offer much. You really have to be able to, again, and you're just stuck to your equity, and you're just stuck to stock options.
Yeah.
Your hands are tied. But let's say if you do have some money to hire some decent people, don't cut back on it. I think in the beginning, it's very important to pay good money. In the beginning, it is super vital to pay good money, even if you're taking minimal profits.
Okay.
The reason why is because the people that you bring in to pay good money for in the beginning, and the people that you bring in to surround, they will set the foundation for you.
Yeah, I completely agree.
They will set down what the standards need to be. Once you figure that out, then you can scale back. Then you can think about multiplying those people, but at a much more reduced rate of maybe other options. How can you maximize by getting more cost-efficient resources on the company? Then you can explore your options. But I wouldn't cut. Like, my personal advice would be to not cut corners. Do not cut corners when you're hiring in the beginning, when you've just figured out your proof of concept. Do not cut corners when you're hiring people to kind of set the foundation.
Yeah, I mean, you want to be able to bring on good people and retain them. Like at the end of the day, and even when like building a team, when you're doing interviews, right? I mean, I know, Gary Vee says this a lot, right? Like you have to balance it between like results that person can do, but then also like culture, right? Because let's say you want to hire 5 guys or 5 people, let's say, and one guy is clear, like his results unmatched, like he's the guy, but he's like so toxic that he brings everyone else down. Like, my opinion,
cut that guy.
You have to
cut
right?
that guy.
You'd rather have a united front of 5 people that are all doing well.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. Like, if there's a toxic guy that's bringing down your team, or if the culture is not fitting for that person, and you're gonna end up losing like $100,000 because you cut that guy, but in the long run you're saving $300,000. And if you're thinking purely macro from a monetary perspective, sometimes you got to take a loss for the greater good.
Without a doubt, I mean. And I think honestly, like it's really important from like a culture like standpoint, like culture is so like important. Like the culture that you've built here is amazing. You know, like everyone's very comfortable. You know, ideas can be shared. You know, and I think one of the indicators of that is like, can someone come into, you know, your office, whether it's, you know, you or anyone who's listening, and have a tough conversation with you? Is your door really open? You know, I think that's a big indicator of that.
Do you think it's possible?
What do you mean, here? Yeah, for sure.
Because of the culture.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, you know, that, I think for me, like, that's what it comes down to, right? Because I think culture now will bleed into a lot of the stuff you said before, where will you go the extra mile? The culture is horrible. Yeah. It's like, I think my boss is an asshole. Like, no, like, I'm not. As soon as that clock strikes 6 or 5, like, I'm out. I'm out.
I don't ever want to be
thinking about anything besides of what I have for dinner and whatever else.
You want to know something funny as hell? So, I think I told you, because what you just said just reminded me of something.
Yeah.
So this person that I know had just finished an internship and got a job, and the value of that internship was so valuable.
It was positive?
It was the experience was horrible.
Oh,
but
no.
the outcome and what it did for his resume, for resume building, was so important. It helped him get his next job.
Oh, nice.
And
okay. That's
get
fantastic.
him first job from his right after college. He landed his first job, and he did that internship while he was in college, right? Okay. So he said that the boss in that internship was ex-military, and ran that entire company like a boot camp.
No.
And it was so bad, what he was telling me, without, you know, disclosing his information, because I don't want anybody to, kind of cross-check that. But it was so bad, but he was saying that if you made a mistake in one of the presentations, what the boss would do at 7:15 in the morning, that's when their meetings would be, the daily meetings.
Wow, it's early.
7:15 sharp. You made a mistake the week before at any point, he puts you on blast and does public humiliation in front of the entire company.
What do you mean public humiliation?
Like, in front of the entire company, identifies what you did and puts you on blast.
Wow.
Like, insults you.
That's unfortunate.
And then, if you're a minute late for that 7:15 meeting, you can imagine how crazy this guy was.
I mean, the timeliness thing, timeliness is important, right? But does some stuff happen? So being that he's military, I can only imagine. He's ex-military,
and what he did was he would just pull you away right there and right in front of everybody, put you on the spot and be like, why are you late? And something like that. And just like, give me a reason. Like, typical healthy, non-toxic work environment would be, let's talk after, or do it in private, or have him come in the office, whatever it is. Doesn't need to be like that, right? Sometimes I get it. Repeat offense. Sometimes you might need to make an example out of situations, right?
Sure.
And we've been through this in our situation, but putting it, setting these rules, and this was he was miserable there. He was like, I hated this. I just went through this because I needed this for my resume. Yeah. And sometimes you got to bite the bullet for that, right? But that's an example of horrible office culture, right? That's like, nobody wants to be around that guy.
Well, yeah. I mean, now the fact is that, whoever that person is, they ain't going to recommend anyone else to be working there, right? That's the downside, Like, I think also, like, a pinnacle of office, like, knowing you have a good culture is when someone leaves, they're like, hey, man, like, it was a pleasure. And, like, if anyone I know wants to do something similar, like, I'll refer them here.
Yeah.
That's like, okay. For me, like, that's a good sign.
Like when you're ending, or you let somebody go, or someone ends up quitting, like just leaving on good terms.
On good terms, super.
Yeah,
important,
I'm a big fan of that, man. 100%. Yeah, I think it's important. Also important to make sure that you don't leave a toxic environment behind. You don't leave any skeletons. You always are upfront about your intentions and the type of business that you want. You want to be completely clear and transparent with the people that are employing you.
For sure.
And not be shady about it, because at the end of the day, if you're ever going to rely on getting a good recommendation or a reference, you want to leave that door open.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to those who have watched the networking episode. Like, I'm a huge fan of what Saj said. There's, like, always leaving the door open. Like, even if it's a crack, like, don't ever close the door, because really, I'm not going to go through the whole cycle again, but at the end of the day, like, you just never know what the future can hold, whether it's a week, year, 10, 20 years. Like, you really just never know.
No.
So with that said, kind of reeling it back here to the importance of building a good team. we kind of just went over culture a little bit, how that is important. I mean, I think it might be good to kind of go over what does having a good culture mean? How do you implement that? Like,
I think so that's a good question, right? But I think that it really depends on who you are. Like, who are the people that are leading the company? Who are the leaders, right? I've heard great stories about cultures being built around people that were hired to build the cultures. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like, for example, over at Amazon, Bezos is, he's got the laugh of like Lex Luthor, but the reality is like if that guy's in charge of building the office culture, everybody's, in the shitter. So he's not in charge. There are other people that would kind of come and bring that to life.
So then I guess the question is, how do they do it, right?
I think at the end of the day, obviously we're thinking at a crazy scale with Amazon, but obviously to the normal person like me and you and anybody else that's listening, there'd be a much smaller scale and they'd have to build a good, healthy culture. For me, I wanted it to be an environment where I would come in and I would be happy just looking at everybody on my team, knowing that everyone's responsible. Yeah. There's no hand-holding, no micromanagement needed, because everyone knows what the priorities are and what the responsibilities are and what needs to go out on a timely manner. And of course, we're in a very high-stress environment. Considering that, I didn't want to add added stress to the environment.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be fun. I wanted it to be like we're all friends, but at the end of the day, we got to get work done.
Yes.
And I wanted it to be a trustworthy environment. That was the culture that I wanted to build.
Yeah.
A very well-oiled machine, smooth operations, and happy culture, happy vibes, good energy.
Yeah. I think you've definitely accomplished that.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think that.
But what does it mean to you?
I think what it means
Would
to
you
me
do anything differently?
I mean, I agree with everything you said. Okay. I also think that, accountability is a big one for me. Having the ability to speak, like openness and like trust, kind of like being comfortable with speaking to, whether like superiors or whoever, having the ability to have difficult conversations. I would say like, I think accountability is like a big one for me. Everyone needs to be accountable.
100%. I mean, that goes hand in hand with the responsibilities. And it's like, if you're not accountable and you don't have accountability meter in your head, you are going to end up being micromanaged. And that's the environment that we don't want. Yeah.
I mean, and also the reality is, I mean, from my point of view, like no one wants to micromanage anybody.
Well, some people enjoy it. You would be surprised. Some people in a leadership position enjoy it, but I don't. Again, you haven't seen it here is because I don't bring people like that on my team.
Yeah, but like I guess you're right. Like there are people that do like to micromanage.
It's a power trip, man.
Yeah,
it's like a crazy power trip for some people.
I don't think those people are going to get too far, because what happens when you have 10, 15 people under you? Like it's impossible to micromanage every single person.
Also impossible. I also want to clarify one thing, right? One of the reasons why I didn't say. It's part of the FFP culture and the brand that we've built and the office culture that we have here, which is being able to voice your opinion, being able to give your creative input and know that it's going to be heard. Yes. I make it very known to my team when they're sitting in these creative sessions in the meetings that we have, or even the first time they get onboarded to the company. I make it very clear, and you know this because you were a part of this, is your voice is being heard. Like make sure you voice it. If you have any ideas, any suggestions of how we can do things better, or if you have suggestions that we can explore, more than happy to look into it. Not every single thing will be explored. Not every single thing would be listened to, right? But that door is never fully closed off. We leave it open so that people know that, hey, like I am somebody. I have a voice here.
Yes.
And that's the culture that's like super important because you never know. You never know. And one of the things that you suggested at FFP very recently, a couple months ago, was a pretty big service offering that we just kind of hit our stride on right now. That was a phenomenal idea, and I want to give you credit for that.
I appreciate it.
And I believed in it.
Yeah.
And we ran with it, and we made it really work.
Yeah, it's doing pretty good. Yeah, it's doing pretty good for sure. I mean, I like everything that you mentioned too. Having the ability to. Like it matters, like I think something that like I've read and that like I've heard a lot of times is that you want to like people that work with you or for you or whatever, like they need to feel like they're a part of something bigger than just let's close this deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like, I need to do some design work today, or I need to type in, you know, into this doc. Like, what are you a part of? Like, what is the company's mission? Like, what are our goals? Like, even as like a leader, you know, I think that you tell people these things, you know, and like it's a different sense of like empowerment. It's like, okay,
Well,
like, now it's like, what can I do to help us get there? It's us.
Yeah.
It's not him or she, or it's us now. Like, how can we get there?
I love the way you just put that.
Yeah.
And I also want to highlight one thing for prospects that are applying for jobs right now. If you're applying for jobs right now and you're landed an interview, right, and you're on the other side we're talking about, for any company, it doesn't have to be a startup or a tech company or whatever it is, don't just do the bare minimum. Do not just do the bare minimum. Do as much as you possibly can. If you really like a company and you see that their culture and their vision and their branding and who they are stands out to you and you really want to be a part of it, make it known to them. Go, you know, do extra things. You don't, you know, send more emails, do a little bit more research, suggest something that they can improve on. Send an email saying, hey, I have an idea on, or I can create this marketing thing for you. Do, you know, when you're sending in your application, just go the extra mile.
Yeah, think out of the box a little bit.
Because it'll automatically tell them, and if they're open to that mindset, and if that company is open and receptive to these type of ideas and that culture, you're going to hit it out of the park. So I would just say, don't just do the bare minimum. Go the extra mile. And
the squeaky wheel always gets the grease.
I love these little, you know. Yeah.
I was laughing back there.
We should just superimpose these quotes, you know.
I mean, that, you know, yeah, I would agree with everything that you mentioned. So I think, you know, as in kind of closing here, right? I think we've hit all of the points that we kind of wanted. I mean, is there any last, you know, statements that you want to, or thoughts that you want to share about building a team, the importance of building a team? What do you think?
I think it's, maybe we summarize what we talked about, right? Very briefly.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, for me, like, in closing, as a leader, like, at your startup or whatever you're doing, you know, I always want to lead by example, for sure. You know, you never want to be telling someone to do something that you're not practicing yourself, because the second that they realize that, it's over for you. Like, like, they've lost respect. You've probably lost some of your authority, because everything you tell them to do moving forward, it's like, okay, like, he's not doing it, so how important could it be? You know what I mean? So leading by example, I think, you know, even from the top down, having accountability, and then being able to have difficult conversations with whoever you need to, and just making sure that, like, that door is always open so that everyone feels comfortable having that with you.
Yeah, if you're an exec or leadership position, you're setting the rules and the boundaries needed for new people to come in and recognize if they want to be a part of that or not. A lot of times your pay might not be super attractive, but everything else is. But it lets you build a foundation, because guess what? Sometimes money is not everything to people. You know, like, I know so many people that are making a decent wage, and but they're miserable with their jobs, or they're really happy with their jobs and they're not making a lot of money. And that's all depends on the culture and the environment that you breed. And it's super important to listen. It's super important to notice these changes. Super important to see what's being done right and what you're doing wrong, and making adjustments on the fly. It doesn't have to be perfect from the get-go.
No, it never will be. It never will be. The reality. Yeah.
You live and learn. You can evolve. And yeah, I agree with you. Something that I always kind of live by is, even when we're talking about it and we're pitching a new concept to the team, we don't just tell them to do it, and it's something we say, lead by example.
Well, not even that. As we're pitching, like, a new idea or whatever, it's like, what do you think? Like, do you think we can...
Well, the new service that I was talking about, the idea that you had, like, it was more like one of those things that, you know, with the sales team and the people on our team, they had no idea what the hell we were talking about, and they had no idea what we were pitching, and me and you knew it like the back of our heads.
Yeah.
And so our goal, what we both did, was we got to close these deals. We went and closed these deals for them. We put it on the speaker and we said, this is how we do it. Pay attention.
Yes.
Lead by example. There's no better way for the people that you're trying to recruit or bring onto your team to understand your vision, and your culture, than you being able to just show them how it's done, show them the ropes.
Yeah, and then now they know like you're willing to kind of get into the dirt with them too.
100%,
which is awesome.
100%. And again, I think it depends on how crazy you get. If your company now has 100 employees, it's going to be difficult to do that. But guess what? You can get people. Now this is where you being an effective CEO is going to come into play. You can get people and train them to represent you and represent that culture and carry that on with the next 10 people that they're managing. And it all comes down to how you run that.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's it for me.
That's it from you.
What about you? Got anything else? You got any more little quotes and?
I think Ooh, I got one for you to close out. You ready?
Oh, let's get it. Let's get it.
Be the change that you would like to see.
Love that.
Yeah, that's definitely like a common one, but especially
the last one wasn't that common.
It was. I'm just saying, like, this one is like super common.
This is good. This is a good.
But I'm saying, like, be the change that you want to see. Definitely lead by example. But I mean, I think that kind of closes us out.
Rising tide lifts all boats.
Ships, yeah.
Nice.
Rising
you
tide
would get
lifting
that right.
all ships.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big quote guy, as you can tell.
Man, we should make it a thing where we end it with a quote like this.
Okay. That's the one for this episode, like, be the change you want to see?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we hope that you have enjoyed and learned a couple things, throughout, this episode in regards to
or if
to
you
didn't
team. Learn and you don't agree, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, this is true too. If you have an opposing view, throw it in the comments. We
don't have to be right all the time, and we don't claim that we are. This is just what we've lived through. That's it.
This is true. So, as always, we appreciate you all for taking the time to listen. Like, comment, subscribe. We are everywhere: YouTube, Spotify,
Apple.
iTunes, Apple, Google Podcasts. I mean, everywhere that
TikTok, Instagram Reels.
Everywhere that you think we should be, we are. On our socials, like, we do have a link tree, and that has like a lot of the more important stuff and mainstream stuff. So check it out. And as always, enjoy.
Sayonara.
Sayonara.
Venture hustles, this is venture hustles. Turn nothing to something, start a business, get it jumping. Ay, told myself that I would make it and I'm never quitting. Staying motivated and I started with a vision. Yeah.